The day at the lake, so I guess what we did before actually helps. Fresh and beautiful. Mindful and entrepreneurship, two things I absolutely love. And who knows me, there's one other thing I love a little bit more than these two things, and that's relationships. And I believe that leadership is a very special kind of relationship. We already heard something about leadership just now, and I totally agree to everything you just said, was. And I would like to take you through the journey of my personal leadership experience. And it started immediately after university. I made the big mistake of founding a startup. I would not recommend that to anyone because you have zero skills and you have a lot of passion, and that ends up having a lot of power but not a lot of control. So what we did is we built up our company really not knowing what we did, and we struggled for a very long time, but we were only 2-3 people and leadership is no problem. Eventually, things went okay because we were very early in the very early days, and we sold the company to Check24. And for the first time, I was faced with what leadership means, and it was a full frontal because the leadership version was the classical. It was founded by Heinrich Blase, who is a fascinating guy. I had the pleasure to work directly with him for 4 years. But the leadership type was still classical. They were from Bain Company, the very classic leadership. So what they did is half-year reviews. I got reviewed on how I interacted with a client on a scale from 1 to 5, and I got my extra mile, which basically meant how long would I sit on my chair when everybody already left the office. I learned the technique of the shit sandwich, and I'm gluten-free, so that's a problem. So all these things, I came in with so much love for the company, and I still love Check24. But over time, this type of leadership did not inspire me. It wore me down. They told me specifically what I did wrong. They were trained to observe me and tell me what exactly I did wrong. So I knew what I did wrong, but very few people helped me to figure out why I did them wrong. And very few people told me where I have to change and dig deeper beyond what they observed and told me what I did wrong. So what motivated me? They gave me bonuses. I got more money if I did well. So what did I do? I did what they told me, got more money, but got more frustrated along the way. So after 4 years, I had to stop, and to quit Check24 was really like ending a love. And I was really sad and in a bad place. But something other great happened. I became a father. So once I became a father, I also had to become a leader because you have to lead this little thing. And I would like to tell you a little story about my son Dylan, who did something that taught me more about leadership than I think all 4 years at Check24 did. What he did is, in the morning, I had a job again, unfortunately, so I had to go to work and he had to go to daycare. So at 8:30, daycare opens. At 9, I wanted to be at my job, so it was a tight window. Worked out quite well for quite a while until one morning Dylan did this. And I was like, Dylan, put your shoes on. He's like, I'm not putting my shoes on. I'm not doing it. And I'm Dylan, put your shoe on right now. I have to take you to daycare. I have an important meeting at 9 o'clock. Put your shoe on. You can see I'm very mindful. So Dylan, because I got so angry and he could feel that anger coming from me, he sort of was a little scared and he put his shoe on. Next day, same shit happened. Again, I got angry, but it took a little bit longer. And third day, it took even longer, so my method of getting angry at him didn't work anymore. So somehow this stimulus system of negative feedback I tried to implement didn't work. Tried a new strategy I had learned at Check24. I rewarded him. So I said, Dylan, if you put on your shoe, you get a gummy bear. Worked like a charm. Put on his shoe. I made my meeting. Everything's fine. Second day, worked okay. I increased to 2 gummy bears. Worked. So eventually, I knew if I go on with this pace, I have to start getting a flat rate from Haribo. It's not an option. So again, I got a little frustrated and angry, and I used the last instrument in my repertoire which I'd learned, which was to punish him. So I said, if you don't put your shoes on right now, I really have to go to your work, I will not read you a story tonight. And that was my ultimate ratio, and I thought, like, yes, now I have it. And what did he do? He started crying. And with children, if you have children, you know there are two ways of crying. There's the tactical crying, when they want something. It's like, but then there's also this existential crying, when you really feel you've touched the soul and the existence of a child. And that is one that immediately breaks down parents. That's a biological wonder what they do. So in that moment, I thought, like, whatever, meeting 9 o'clock. So I sat down, and I sat down with Dylan, and I said, Dylan, what's going on? And he, with his 3 years, told me, Papa, I don't want to go to daycare. At daycare, there's Tim, and Tim always bites me. And I sat down, and I said, is that why you're not putting on your shoes? Yeah, I don't want to go to daycare, because Tim always bites me. And in that moment, I felt like such an idiot. I felt like, wow, I had used all these leadership techniques when the solution was simply to sit down with Dylan and talk to him what his actual problem was. So I talked to him, I went to daycare, I talked to the people at daycare, and obviously they were aware of the situation. We didn't have a problem anymore. He would put on his shoes in the morning perfectly fine. So after this happened, I thought, now I am equipped to actually run a new startup, started a new startup 3 years ago at the phone. But I made it as a central aspect of that startup that I don't lead by the classical OKRs and whatever, all these frameworks, they sound super, super awesome. But what we actually do is we sit down whenever there's a problem, and that was very nice, was what you just said. We're trying to really get and sit down with the employee and really understand what is the problem, what is stopping you, what is demotivating you from using your true potential. Because I think Einstein was pretty right when he said we're only using 10% of our brain. I really think people use only 10% of their potential. And I think we all have more or less the same potential. I don't really think that there are much more capable and smarter people, but we have to know what's blocking that, and it's usually leadership. It's usually the leaders. One last thing, if you, I know I have 30 seconds, but hurry up. There's one thing I also want to teach my employees, and it's the guiding light we have at my company, and everyone who joins gets this. Every criticism is an opportunity to learn. I want to build an organization that is only focused on learning. And that means two things, because criticism has two parts. The one receiving it, which usually in the top down is one saying, one getting it. So I have to say, yes, thank you. And we actually do say thank you every time criticism is given. But also the way giving criticism has to be that the other person can accept it. And I always use one example, it's the last thing I'm nearly done. If somebody is driving next to you in a car, rolls down the window and says, you drive like an idiot, the appropriate response is not this. The appropriate response is why? Because it's an opportunity to make you a better driver. Thank you.